D-Lo 404 Boxing. Shout out to the LDBC. Hey, shout out to World Breaker Fighting. And subscribe to World Breaker Fighting. Please do so. Shout out to Marlowe's Corner with Marlowe and Trey X. If you hadn't subscribed to Marlowe's Corner, go over there and subscribe. That's the place to be on fight night. Definitely want to be over there catching the blow by blow commentary on fight night. You know, Trey X has a style that's unique, entertaining, it's appealing. Hey, it's something to behold. Go over there and check them out. But anyway, what I want to talk about on this video is Keith Thurman. You know, Keith Thurman had his fight a couple weeks ago against Jose Lopez. Went to a decision. Thurman won a split decision. One of the judges had the score 113-113. The other two judges had it pretty wide for Keith. Keith grinded out a win in that fight. He deserved the win. He did what he had to do to get the win. The fight was a lot closer than people expected it to be. I think the expectation for the majority was that Keith Thurman would watch Jose Lopez, knock him out probably within 6 rounds, and it didn't play out that way. But the fight in and of itself has been talked about. My whole point of making this video is I'm wondering, you know, where is Keith Thurman? I haven't seen an interview or anything from Thurman since the day of, or maybe the day after the fight. And I'm just curious. You know, I just feel like with Keith Thurman, with his track record, you know, I think he needs to let his fans know. He needs to let the fans know, the fight fans know, you know, that this is what the situation is, and this is what we're gonna do. You know, I know they talked about Manny Pacquiao in the post-fight. Some other names were mentioned on different articles and on videos and things of that nature, but for the most part, Manny Pacquiao seemed to be the primary name that was mentioned as a potential opponent going forward for Thurman. And but I also know that there was some mention of a hand injury, and that's what makes me wonder, you know, is Thurman having to have surgery? Is he just having to have some time to let his hand heal? Is Thurman planning to come back first half of this year? Is he coming back third quarter? Is he coming back toward the tail end of the year? What's Keith Thurman doing? Because I have to wonder with Keith Thurman if this is going to lead to another year-long layoff. You know, so, you know, and I'm going to be honest, I had my suspicions, and I have my suspicions that Thurman's only in it for the money at this point. And so I don't think Keith Thurman's heart's in boxing. I could be wrong. I don't think he has that same passion, drive, and determination for boxing that he once had. And I'm not just pulling that out of the air. I'm part of that kind of, you know, I kind of initially got those thoughts when Thurman was on stage with Errol Spence, and he was talking about Errol Spence being hungry, more hungry than he is, and so forth and so on. And then he caught himself with like, oh, don't get it wrong, I'm still hungry. There's still room in this belly, you know, but it was almost like he basically admitted that he doesn't really have that fire inside him anymore for boxing. You know, and when a fighter gets that way, at that point it becomes all business. It becomes all about, it's just like having a good job that you're sick of, but you're going in because the paychecks are good. But your quality of work is lacking, and you're doing just enough to hold on to that job. So I have to wonder if that's where Thurman has gone in his career. Is he to that point that it's simply about the money? You know, or does he still have that fire? Is he having that second win in his career where maybe he realizes that he wants to, you know, go to the next level in terms of career accomplishment? Because right now, Keith Thurman is just another good welterweight in a long line of good welterweights, and I don't see anything in Keith Thurman's body of work that just makes him stand out amongst the welterweights of the past. He was just another good welterweight. I even look at the guy that works with him in the gym at times. He had the same trainer he had, and that's Winky Wright, who was one of the best to ever do it at 154. And Wright also fought at 160 and gave Jermaine Taylor a hell of a fight. I felt like he beat Jermaine Taylor in that fight, but that's another video. But anyway, my point in bringing up Winky Wright had some very exceptional signature moments and wins throughout his career that separated him from a lot of other guys who campaigned at 154. Now, 154 isn't as old a division as 147, if I'm not correct. I think that was one of the divisions that were created later on. I think it used to go 147 to 160, and then 154 was created later. So it doesn't have the deep history, as deep a history as 147. But that said, there was still some really good fighters who campaigned in 154. And Winky Wright separated himself from a lot of those fighters and thus becoming a Hall of Famer. And I just don't think Keith Thurman has done nearly enough at 147 or even in his career, just period, because you can't really say, well, because if a guy's in a really great weight class, you can't really just penalize him and say, well, all these other guys in weight class. But I just mean he didn't really separate himself as a boxer in general to say that Keith Thurman done anything just outstanding. Keith Thurman's best two wins are against Sean Porter and Danny Garcia. In both of those fights, there's some that felt like he that he should have lost those fights. But that said, he won those fights and he deserved to win those fights. But that's two fights. I mean, everybody else that Keith Thurman ever fought, in my opinion, I think you have to say that Keith Thurman was supposed to beat them. Going into the fight, that there was no question that Thurman was going to win those fights. So I'm hoping that Keith Thurman comes back and puts a stamp on his career by doing something extraordinary. We all know the fight that's looming out there for him that we want to see him have. Do I want to see him have it right now coming off of the performance against Jose Lopez? No, I don't want to see that. And that fight is the Errol Spence Jr. fight. Keith Thurman did a lot of talking about Terrence Crawford. I also want to see him fight Terrence Crawford. If Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. fight first, I don't care who wins or who loses. I want to see Keith Thurman fight both of those guys if they're both still around. Because the reality is Keith Thurman has been perceived as the guy at 147, and he talks as if he's the guy. And if he is what he say he is, and he is what some people have claimed him to be and crowned him to be, Keith should want to put both of those guys on his dossier. And there are other fights to be made as well. But I mean, and even Thurman's talked about fighting Canelo at 54, but I don't think that's a makeable fight anymore. I don't think Canelo would come down to 54, or could maybe. I don't even know that he could make 54 at this point. Since he's been fighting at 160 now for a minute, and also fought as high as 168. So I don't know that there's some guys at 154. 154 is a good division right now. So Thurman could possibly beat Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford. Maybe win a rematch with Sean Porter and get his WBC belt back. Just say if everything worked out in a perfect world, he went undisputed at 147. Then moved up to 154 and challenged one of those champions and won. Then I think he would absolutely put a stamp on his career. And even with those things I said, he didn't have to win all those fights. Even if he has those fights and just say he wins all but one and moves up to 54 and wins a championship. Or even if he has those fights and wins wins 1, loses 2, or goes 2-2 in his next 2 fights at welterweight, but wins 1 and moves up to 54. Yes, you know, any number of scenarios. But my whole point is daring to be great. You know, not everybody in the Hall of Fame, you know, very few fighters in the Hall of Fame are undefeated. So it's not as if he has to go undefeated to go to the Hall of Fame. I just want to see Keith Thurman dare to be great if he's going to continue his career, or if he's just going to continue his career and be a stepping stone for someone else, or whatever he's going to do. I just want to see him do it, but I also don't want to, you know, I don't want to see him be one of those guys that fight too long either. I don't want to see that for any fighter who hangs around too long and ends up, you know, ruining their quality of life or damaging their quality of life for after the sport of boxing. But, you know, like I said, I'm interested to see what's next with Keith Thurman. I'm interested to hear some sort of announcement as to what's going on with him, what his plans are going forward, what his team's working on. If the plan is to come back, you know, midway through the year, end of the year, next year, whatever, you know, as a boxing fan and as a fan of the welterweight division especially, I like to know what's going on, because Thurman is one of the belt holders, and no one can become undisputed as long as you know, Keith Thurman is sitting out. You know, if Keith Thurman's sitting out with that title, nobody has a shot at becoming undisputed, including Keith Thurman. So that is you know, that's why I'm really interested in it, and also interested in it because of Keith Thurman. He's a hell of a fighter. Hey, shout out to the LDBC. Shout out to my subscribers. Anyone that has subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment in the comment section. Hit that bell icon. D-Lo 404 Boxing. I'm out. Peace.